process. If you want to speak, you have to turn in your text beforehand. You get the luxury of 5 minutes, which doesn't seem long until you realize there are 200 people all waiting to have their 5 minutes. But you turn in your text, and then you are notified you're going to speak later on today. In the afternoon, the Pope has introduced this innovation. In the afternoon, at a certain point, all the written texts stop. And you can simply put up your hand and be asked to be recognized. Now you can only speak for 3 minutes. And they've learned, by the way, that there's a little light. It's up on the wall, everybody sees it. When you start to talk, the light blinks 3, then 2, then 1, and then this red light goes on saying, stop. Everybody sees that. Not everybody recognizes it. So at the last synod, they introduced a new addition. After 3 minutes, your mic goes dead. But in the midst of all this, the Pope put up his hand. And everything came to a halt, and he said to the cardinal, who was the one coordinating that session, they take turns coordinating it, he said, could I make an intervention? What do you think the answer was? And he gave this extraordinary intervention on the understanding of what is called today canonical exegesis. The hermeneutic of canonical exegesis, meaning you read each part of the Bible in the light of the revelation of the whole canon. He gave a beautiful, beautiful and succinct explanation and defense of this. In the section of the document Verbum Domini, we read this. This involvement of the magisterium in the passing on of Scripture is not to uphold the ecclesial context as an extrinsic rule to which exegesis must submit, but rather it is something demanded by the very nature of the Scriptures and the way they gradually came into being. The teaching office of the Church isn't extrinsic to the Church's self-understanding and the understanding of her Lord, His words, and His gospel. I'd like to give you a parallel example, understanding this appreciation of the voice of the bishops in the passing on of Scripture and the authenticating of the meaning of Scripture. Judgments of the Supreme Court. Now I'm going to speak just about the United States Supreme Court. Judgments of the Supreme Court become determinative for jurisprudence. No one disputes that. Law schools would really not be very faithful instructors in jurisprudence if they choose to exclude binding legal precedents from their understanding of the law. So too in the Church, the judgment of the magisterium is always integral to the very reality, the very exegesis of Scripture. Why? And the Synod went on to say this, because the Church is the home of that word. With the coming of Jesus and his teaching, and this is the first part of Verbum Domini, those of you who have read it know that this is taken directly from those opening sections. With the coming of Jesus and his teaching, God's revelation is complete. Through the law and the prophets, God prepared us to receive the fullness of his word, and that word was spoken in Jesus Christ. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and then the Word became flesh. The Word became flesh. Why? So that we might see the glory of God, St. John says. The Word became flesh so that we would be able to hear with our ears and experience with our lives the Word now in human form. And the Word spoke words. It's hard to believe how complete is the incarnation that at some point Mary had to say to Jesus,